Good midday. The Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Board of Trustees is now convened in a special call board meeting on Tuesday, February the 23rd, 2021 in the boardroom of Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Instructional Support Center located at 10,300 Jones Road, Houston, Texas at 12 p.m. This special call board meeting is in regard to the President's Day ice storm. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by Section 551.071 to 551.084 inclusive of the Texas Government Code. We will now proceed with public comments. 1A, patrons who have duly registered for policy BED local may address the board and make public comments on an agenda item during or before the board's consideration of the item. The board may allow public comment or agenda items at all meetings. The board will continue with the remaining agenda after the registered patrons have had an opportunity to speak. Today, we have had no one sign up to make public comments, so we will now move on to the reports part of the agenda. 2A, the administration will provide an update on the President's Day ice storm. Presenter is Dr. Mark Henry. Dr. Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Covey, trustees, and thank you all for taking the time to be here today. Certainly, we wanted to bring you up to date on where we were on recovering. I can't remember, is it Ice Storm Uri or something like? I think Uri was the official name of the storm. So where we are on recovering with that, and then also we needed you to consider some action to ratify us some ability to contract with people to continue the cleanup with some of our outside folks. Before I turn it over to Roy, I just want to say, I tell you what, our operations department this year, from food service to our custodial staff to maintenance to technology is not part of that particular group, and I know I'm as always going to leave someone out, but I'm going to just tell you, it's just been a tremendous job, and I can tell you that the hard work and the spirit that those folks came in with last week to make sure they could get our facilities ready for our students is really touching, and it just shows you how much they love this community, how much they love this school district, and how much they love their students. So appreciative of that, and then our teachers and campus staff who came in yesterday to start putting the pieces back together and getting ready to serve our students again. That is very touching also, and you just see that great spirit. What makes Cy-Fair, what I always say, is the biggest small town in the state of Texas. So I'm really, really proud of all of those folks. And if I were to name them individually, it would take till 5 o'clock to get them all named. So just want to give them kudos for all they do and have done. So. And then I'm not surprised by all of this, just because I've seen through hurricanes and through other events how quickly the employees of this district respond, and how much, again, that they care and love for the students and families in this community. But having said that, I'm going to have Roy and his team, Matt, and maybe Bill, are going to have most of the presentation today. And certainly, as you have questions, just let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. Well, it's been a interesting week for us, to say the least. But before I get started on the report, I just want to give kudos to Matt Morgan and the rest of his team. As Dr. Henry said, words just cannot describe enough the effort that these teams have done. And I know I'm leaving some people out, but the police department was instrumental at the beginning stages of this crisis to give us some indication where our problem areas were, so that we can send our resources to those campuses as quickly as we can once the roads were ready and safe for us to drive. We had team members watching the security cameras and checking our buildings throughout the evenings to see where some of the damages were. So again, allowing us to assemble quickly to get our teams where they needed to be and call in any resources we needed to address the damages. In terms of what we experienced, we had a total of 62 campuses that had some form of damage in our buildings. Some of it was very minor leaks, all the way to some pretty significant damages that's going to result in some repairs for quite some time. And then we had 12 support facilities that also received some type of damage that our teams have been working on, trying to get cleaned up and get resources in to fix pipes and then do the repair of the damage of wet carpet and things like that that we experienced throughout the district. In the height of the crisis, we really couldn't get out into the field until Wednesday morning, once the roads were starting to clear up to where we could go out and really inspect. And our teams really were doing just chasing rabbits throughout the district with all the reports of leaks with pipes busting. We'd have a crew at one site. They would get a phone call. We'd have to get them over to another site to try to get the water turned off to minimize the damage in our district before we could truly start the repairs back. Once we were able to get that under control, then we had 2 more freezes we had to deal with on Thursday night, Friday night. All the days have run together, I apologize. But we were worried about those 2 nights. But fortunately, we were able to get a lot of the water off, and we minimized any additional items appearing. I think on Thursday night, Friday morning, we had 2 items that we added to our list. And then after Friday night, Saturday morning, I think we added another 2 items to our list. So we were very fortunate that second round of freezes did not impact us drastically, because that was a big concern for us. One of the other big issues with all the power outages that we had a lot of boil water notices that were received by all the mud districts. So at the height of this, we had a total of 46 boil water notices that we've been monitoring. So we had a special team assigned to watching and talking with operators and looking at websites to see where we stood with all the BWNs, as we refer to them. As of yesterday, we had 45 of the 46 released. And then just before this meeting, around 11 o'clock, we got the last notice cleared today. So all 46 have been cleared, which is great news for us and our campuses and everything. As we were preparing for that, I got to give kudos to Bill and Darren as part of this. Trying to find bottled water in the state of Texas was very difficult at best, but they managed to get another 8,000 cases on order and being delivered today to the district to give us additional supply in case we could not get some of those boil water notices released today. But good news is we now have some extra water in our inventory, which is we'd rather have that than have to send them out to all the campuses with that. A lot of our portable buildings sustained quite a bit of damage, especially on the elementary schools. At the elementary school campuses, we have restrooms and water fountains in those buildings, and with the loss of power, unfortunately, we had a lot of pipe breakage and water leaks in those buildings that our teams are currently working on repairing. Out of those, I think we had 53 total. We're down to 20 buildings that are still not in a usable condition, which our teams are still working around the clock to get those back up and running as quickly as we can so the campuses can utilize those buildings as soon as possible with that. In a nutshell, we had lots of power outages. We had a lot of water outage during the process, but we have everything back up and running in terms of all the water and the power. Some of the things we're doing temporary fixes, and then we'll come back in and do permanent fixes as time allows us to do it. Our biggest challenge right now is resources. Everybody in the state's going after the same resources we are and the same parts. And you can't find a plumbing part anywhere in the city or in the state right now. In talking with plumbers, they're driving to Louisiana to go get parts and bring them back into town to be able to perform the repairs out there. So that's still a challenge for us, but our teams are doing everything they can to do temporary fixes until we get the correct parts that we need to do that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt and ask Matt to come up, and he can talk about some of the more specifics of some of the damages we incurred.
Thank you, Roy. President Covey.
We made him practice that today.
No, I've known it for 20 years. I don't know what happened. Dr. Henry, just a quick update on some of the damage. Like Roy said, some of the most significant damages are widespread were in the portables. I think he said 50. I think, Roy, we had 66 portables that were actually damaged. All those were elementary. Most of those were interior lines, and it just got so cold when the power went out, they just popped. And We've got 20 that currently aren't usable, but we're making repairs. We split the district up into thirds, and we've contracted out with Millennium, Division One, and Jamel and Smith, and they're out there making the plumbing repairs right now. So they're coming slowly back online. So we should have everybody back in the portables, at least with running water, fairly soon. There are some significant repairs to make at some of them, where some of the flooring has warped. We'll have to go in and make a few more repairs there, but the team is aggressively getting onto that because that is so critical to the elementary schools. Most of the damage we had was burst water lines, return lines to the cooling or chilling towers, which caused some HVAC issues, but we've got all those repairs. A lot of sprinkler heads and sprinkler pipes burst, and then just general plumbing throughout the district burst. So it was quite a challenge. And like Roy said, I think they were out Tuesday night, Roy, because we were at Prison Tuesday night when we heard about the waterfall. My guys have been out since Tuesday night. Operations, maintenance, the plumbers responding to these calls. They've done a fantastic job. But with some of the bigger sites that we had damaged, Langham Creek, we had a domestic water line and a fire line burst right next to the auditorium, and it dumped water. I don't know how long it ran. We got a call. I think I got it Wednesday morning. I went out there, and there was water running out the doors to the auditorium at Langham Creek, and we had water in the orchestra pit and about 2 to 3 inches of water throughout I think it's the west side of the first floor and the administration area. We got Blackman Mooring out there. They started pumping water. They got about 100,000 gallons of water out of the orchestra pit because that's also a return air duct, and it just goes way under there. So we pumped water. They quit pumping, I think, 2 days ago, but about 100,000 gallons of water out of there. We extracted all the water out of the classrooms and out of the administration area, took the carpet out of the administration area, saw cut the sheetrock, let it dry, and then we laid new carpet down, got the furniture sanitized, did air testing, and all those air tests came back. They passed yesterday. So administration was able to get back in last night, and students are back today. So they did a really good job. Our team did on that. Swinky, we had a water line burst on an exterior wall on the west side as well. And we had about 2 to 3 inches in about 2/3 of the school. And we got prime contractors and Cotton out there. Wednesday morning, they extracted all the water. We started removing carpet right after that to get the carpet out in the affected areas. Right now, we are scrubbing the floors and sanitizing the floors. We also had to saw cut a few of the walls, but most of the walls we didn't have to saw cut. It didn't wick up into the sheetrock, so we were in really good shape there. So we've been running a dehumidifier at that school, and it's still running, and we've got air scrubbers running to get any spores out. Should there be any spores in the air, we have air testing going on today. We'll begin laying carpet tomorrow. After the carpet is laid, we'll start moving the classrooms back, and hopefully we will have everybody back in hopefully by Sunday. We'll be finished up there. So that project is going really well. At Pridgeon, we had a water line burst up in the press box, and it just ran through both floors. And when we got up there Tuesday, we got the water shut off. Didn't get right on that one because we had higher priorities, but we got up there Wednesday and started with Cotton doing the extraction. We've completed the remediation. There's still some walls to cut out, but once we get all the remediation done, we will get with PBK, and we're going to contract that out with Millennium and get those repairs made. And at Cy Ridge, we had a cooling coil that burst next to the auditorium, and there was about 3 feet of water in the Cy Ridge auditorium. That one wasn't as bad because it didn't get into any of the adjacent classrooms, and all of that is VCT anyway out in the hallway, so we could get that up really quick. But we will have to go into Cy Ridge and redo the first 3 rows of seating. We're probably going to reupholster all the seats to match, replace the carpet and the acoustical walls to match. So we'll get those repairs underway as quickly as possible. Did I miss anything, Roy?
I think you got it covered.
Okay. But I would like to give a shout out, really, the maintenance team. They've been out since Tuesday night. Operations as well. Archie Hayes' crew, Tammy Blankenship's crew. We also contracted a lot out because it was so much in so many different areas. And Millennium stepped up. Division One helped us out. ICI, Prime Contractors, Blackman Mooring. I know I'm going to miss somebody, but just the Cotton Global is at 2 sites. Just the response, when I got on the phone Tuesday and started calling, they were on site. And so just the response from our employees and our contractors and the facilities team, it was just a total effort. We were monitoring the cameras throughout. Of course, we all lost power, and then we lost internet. We couldn't see them, so we had to get out there and physically check. But all of our project managers, project coordinators, directors in facilities have been coordinating these repairs with our contractors. They've just done a fantastic job. I'm really proud of them.
Just, and continuing on with that, I know y'all have questions, but Karen, would you just touch base quickly with the board related to insurance?
Yes, sir. We were very fortunate with insurance. This is considered a named storm, but it's not ice or it's not hail or a windstorm. So because it's a named storm and it wasn't one of those types of situations, we were able to claim everything as one storm that caused the event, and our deductible is $100,000. So we feel very fortunate on that. There may be a few things not covered, but very little, and then we can file that with FEMA. But a majority of it will be covered with only a $100,000 deductible.
That's our report, Mr. Covey.
Board members, I'm looking, who wants to, Don, help us out.
I don't have any questions. As Matt, as you were going over your report, and Roy, I started thinking our district is 186 square miles, bigger than a lot of towns. And for what y'all have done in such a short period of time is truly unbelievable. I really, and the students are the beneficiaries of all your hard work. So hats off to y'all, everybody involved. I mean, it's just been amazing. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Mr. Sarabia.
Echoes Don's sentiments also. Matt, from your team that's been out and Roy's team, we know that they had issues also, probably their own families had issues going through this. At the same time, they were trying to help and helping our administration and our district and everything else. So kudos to them, and God bless them for getting the job done and still doing the job and everything else. Is everybody okay on your team as far as family-wise, Matt, and everything?
Pipes, but they made it through.
Nice to hear that they made it through. And Roy, the same thing to you guys and to the whole administration for stepping up and getting it done and not waiting on somebody else to do it and stuff. So great job.
Debbie, Ms. Blacksher.
And in addition to all our facilities crews, thank you to Chief for his department, because I know they were out there in the middle of it. They're usually the first to respond, and we thank you for keeping all our assets protected as much as you could, and being out there early on to see, what the issues were. We appreciate you and your staff.
Ms. Jackson.
As always, another remarkable response to a crisis. Leadership shows itself during times of crisis, and I have to say I am particularly proud of the leadership team that this district has throughout, but I'm also proud of all the employees. Everybody was touched by this, but people still had to carry on. You just had to do it. I will say that I am bitterly angry at the state leadership that did not exercise appropriate oversight. Many of the plants that went down could have been prevented. The actions not taken are absolutely shameless. There are no excuses. And particularly when state leadership wants to put their thumb on public education, but they refuse to look at themselves. I know these people. Some I call friends. I cannot say that I am proud of what they've done. The damage has been tremendous. People have died as a result of that negligence. But on a happier note, we have sunshine, right? Many of us are still struggling with broken pipes. but once again, the entire community of this school district is to be commended for coming through and doing what needed to be done in spite of personal travail. I do have my standard comment and standard question that whenever we have one of these events. Matt, you mentioned that you tested air quality at 2 of the schools. You mentioned Langham Creek. You also were checking Swinky, is that correct? We have, I did hear Roy address certain mitigation steps to ensure that water is good. We still have one boiled water notice out.
It's been lifted, rescinded.
It does take, having served 22 years on a mud board, I know that we always used to remind our constituents that they needed to run the water even after the boiled water notice was lifted. Are we taking steps across the district to check on air quality at more than just these 2 and also checking water quality throughout?
I know that our maintenance director has reached out to the campuses and asked them to run the water. We're also clearing ice machines, emptying ice machines, and he was given instructions for that. We don't have a plan to test air quality district-wide. We focused on the campuses where we had major water infiltration, where we had water 2 to 3 inches standing. We'll also do air testing at Pridgeon Stadium and Cypress Ridge. Anywhere where we had water standing and we've had a remediation team, EFI is, our environmental consultants are going in and monitoring the process that we're taking to clean up and testing along the way so that we can have clean air reports. But we haven't made any plans district-wide. Water infiltration in the other areas was, I don't want to say minor because it's never minor, but certainly not as 2 to 3 inches throughout 2/3 of a building or like it was at Pridgeon or Cypress Ridge.
But we are utilizing an outside professional service.
Yes, sir.
To provide oversight.
Yes, sir.
Wouldn't it be nice if the state of Texas had an outside professional service that would monitor winterization?
Sure could have used it last week.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Mr. President.
Dr. O?
Well, I first want to commend all the teams of people that worked to mitigate our damages and to look at and assess all of our buildings. I was thinking each of us have our own just homes and families to worry about, and they had to look at the whole district. And it's amazing, as much as we've heard today on the damage that was done, I always think about it could have been worse. And so we're thankful for what the team has done, and thankful that our situation is not worse, and knowing that it could have been. And the thing that I do ask in looking at the reportables that are still in need of repair, what is the extent of our diminished, if any, capacity to provide education for our kids in those areas, and what have we done just to shift them to another area? What?
Probably Roy Garcia. You may be the best person to answer that.
Dr. Ogletree, the only campus where we've had to make massive change, if you will, in the educational setting is Sweeny Elementary School. And what we did with Sweeny Elementary is to move them, the staff at Sweeny, to the Berry Center. It is quite a sight to see what has taken place there, and how Ms. Wade and her crew have provided the opportunity for all of the Sweeny staff to be there. All the students at Sweeny Elementary are Connect CFISD students, if you will now, or remote, with the exception of those students. For example, Dr. Ogletree, if you were a teacher at Sweeny and you had a child, your child could go to the Berry Center where we have paraprofessionals and other support staff to assist, in that case, your son, your daughter, with their learning. The other campuses that were mentioned, auditorium, obviously that's going to be something that we'll work around, but everyone is in school today, and that's the only major change that we've had.
Just, Roy, and you may not know this, it may be someone else, from the standpoint of portable buildings that are not in use on the other campuses, where have we taken care of those kids?
Those campuses where we do have portables that are not able to be used, the principal and his or her administrative team are just working with that, moving those kids inside, moving those students to other places within the building.
Ms. Heineman.
Thank you. I just wanted to extend my thanks to everyone in leadership and the facilities management and IT and human resources, everyone who's rallied around the district while facing their own challenges at home, and also our teachers and our families, our students. We've been through so much this year, and we just continue to be resilient, and I'm proud of us, and I appreciate everyone's commitment and dedication to just keep moving forward. And so I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. And I just have to say that everybody's pretty much said how I feel. And Roy Sprague, you continue to lead with such great leadership, and you just have such great control. And it's awesome that you've got Matt Morgan, who's working with you as he is. I'm kidding, Matt. Anyway, Karen, can I just ask, do we have any idea of what the approximate cost is going to be? Do we have that at all in our mind?
Not yet. I mean, Roy and I actually were talking about this, that we thought it could be as much as $3 million, give or take, but that didn't take into consideration the portables yet that they were trying to determine. Also, what's going to happen is we actually have the adjuster has actually already been out there, but now they're sending a consultant that's more of an expert that will further evaluate and assist Roy and them coming up with the total cost. So we're not totally sure, but around $3 million, give or take.
Actually, based on my discussions with Matt a little while ago, we think we're actually going to be in the $5 to $6 million range. We think we're going to have at least $2 million in portable building repairs that we're going to have to do based on current estimates, as well as the other campuses that were described by Matt, Sweeny and Kinbridge and Press Box, as well as Cy Ridge and Langham Creek.
And just the fact that you're telling us that we are probably only going to be liable for $100,000 is just phenomenal. And what great planning, and I appreciate what you do. And this is during times when we don't have challenges. And we as a district have seen many challenges over at least the 15 years I've been on the board. We've seen multiple hurricanes and all kinds of things that have caused problems. But thank you all so much, each and every one of you, and to our faculty and everybody who works in the Cy-Fair district. You do nothing but illustrate what it's like to run a district at a very high level of expertise and intelligence. And on top of that, just the humankind feeling that people have for our students and for all of our employees. We thank you very much as a board. I'm speaking for myself, but I know listening to the rest of the board, they feel the same way. So thank y'all very much. Whoops, got to put on my glasses for this. Now the board will review the following action items. 3A, the board will consider authorizing or ratifying the superintendent's procurement and execution of all necessary documents under the emergency exception in section 44.031 of the Education Code and CH local needed to remediate and or repair damages to district property or infrastructure caused by the President's Day storm. If any board member wishes to remove this item for further discussion, please do so. If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the action as recommended and or amended. May I have?
Mr. President, I move that the board ratify and or authorize the superintendent to execute all agreements, contracts, and or purchase orders necessary to procure goods and services under the emergency exception in section 44.031 of the Education Code and CH Local, which are needed to remediate and repair damage to district property or infrastructure caused by the President's Day ice storm, and by this action determine that the delay created by using the traditional procedures in Chapter 44 would substantially impair the district from completing the emergency work necessary to promptly resume classes and school activities.
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Thank you. Do I have any questions or concerns? All in favor, raise your right hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. One thing before we adjourn, and that is that TASB puts on a winter governance. For many years was in Corpus, and about 3 years ago was moved to Galveston, which is going to be virtual. But if I am not incorrect, Mr. Garcia and Dr. Henry, I believe y'all are giving a session with some of our students. Dr. Henry, can you tell us a little bit about it?
I could, but I'm going to let Roy do it.
Okay. Roy, could you?
Yes, sir. We are very excited that Dr. Henry, Superintendent Student Leadership Advisory Council, we did a presentation, a request for a presentation, and it was granted. And we selected 4 students from Dr. Henry's SSLAC. And the Berry Center staff, media staff helped us out, and we have a 53-minute video that once that is complete, we will share with each of you. It is virtual, as you said, and the students will be able to join virtually via chat on Friday, March 5th, I believe is the date that will take place. And we will have a viewing party, if you will, with those 4 students, and then Dr. Henry and Ms. Hull and myself. So very excited about that. We embedded, it was all about the voice of the student, so a lot is emphasized about what SSLAC does for these students, how it impacts not only them, but also how that transfers to their campus, their respective campuses. And just as a reminder, we have 5 students from each of our 12 high schools that are selected by the principal to serve on Dr. Henry's SSLAC. So very excited about that, and more to come once we are able to publish that video.
Thank you for sharing, because I just think it's great that we're able to share some of the good things going on in our district with other districts, and that is one of the things that TASB does. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. I will tell you that Leslie Francis told me that we had 7 high schools that submitted a video. Every other year, TASB sponsors a video contest, and they talk about their schools. And she said she's seen all 7, and they're fabulous. I think the voting starts the first part of March, and you get to witness and look at all the videos that are turned in, and then you vote. And then they will choose the winners from each of the levels. So it's also always awesome to share our good stuff that's going on in Cy-Fair. Thank y'all very much for being here today, for taking your time off for lunch.
Hey,
This
Bob.
meeting- I'm sorry.
Roy, do you got the credit number for that course you're going to be doing? I appreciate that. Appreciate it.
Mr. Covey, kind of back to the agenda.
The lawyer's going to jump in. Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just very quickly, on the motion that you all approved, I don't know that we'll have to utilize it. We went ahead and posted, but I just wanted to give the board credit that after, I think it was Ike, you put in an emergency provision for the superintendent to make these expenditures up to $500,000 per contract. But Matt and Roy and Mark and I, when we were putting our heads together last week, we just went ahead and posted for this item. But I don't know that we're going to actually have to utilize it, in part because you've already had that forethought, and this board is so forward-thinking. I just wanted to take one more opportunity to point that out. But thank you for the authorization should we need it beyond what you had already authorized in CH Local.
Thank you, Marnie, and I remember that, so that's good. Yes.
And really, just in layman's term, that made it where we could move, so that we could start today instead of having delayed school for another week. So thank y'all for that trust. And it's I've got kind of tickled this year because occasionally people say that I have toxic optimism. And they view that as a criticism, but I view that as a compliment because of the people you see in this room, and then all of the people that are working in our operations and our classrooms on behalf of the students in this district, and because of this board. I am optimistic all the time. Yeah, I get down a little bit, but I'm optimistic most of the time because I have the opportunity to work and serve in the best school district in the state of Texas. So thank y'all for that opportunity.
Thank y'all. This meeting is adjourned.